Hello.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
What's life like for you at the minute?
Um, it's weird because I've still got my day job. So that's nuts. So one job's gone mental and then acting's gone a lot more quiet. So it's one thing's taken a back seat and then sadly the day job's had to take a much more of a front seat. But yeah, it's all right. It's the same for everybody, isn't it? It's just a bit rubbish. Everybody wants to see the family and friends now, and novelty's worn off, hasn't it?
No, soon. Hopefully soon. Hopefully soon.
Yeah.
So we were going to talk today about your self-tape for Wings, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Um, Carlton in his podcast last week was answering some questions about auditioning and any advice that he could give, and he talked a lot about your self-tape. So I was just wondering if you could talk to us a little bit about it, just to give us a bit more of an insight as to how you approach the Wing self tape. What did you start with when you got the sides for it?
Okay. So I suppose going right back to the start, when I saw the casting call and the character was described as, I think it was determined and tough, but with an emotional softer side. Um, that really sort of grabbed me. I'm very much, rightly or wrongly, I don't know whether this is the right approach to take. I'm very much of the mindset of I only apply for roles that I think suit me and I could do justice. I'm not one of those people that pushes myself outside my comfort zone and, for example, does comedy or anything like that. So probably pigeonholing myself. So because when I saw that character brief, I was like, I really like the sound of that.
Yeah.
And then when Carlton asked for a self tape based on that character, I kind of approached it in the sense of I wanted to try and get both sides across. So I wanted to get that emotional softer side across, but without showing too much sort of a fragile element and too much vulnerability. Because I was aware that she was a copper, she's going to need to have a bit of a kick behind her. So I tried to sort of get both of those sides to Rita's character across in my self tape.
Yeah.
And by doing that, I suppose for me it was about getting the emotion across, but without taking it too far.
Mm-hmm.
So the character knowing when to try and pull herself back and stop and think, oh my God. So it wasn't for me in this self tape about, crying and being ridiculous. It was more about trying to hold it together, but actually the cracks are starting to show and she's tired and she's vulnerable.
Yeah. What if you are happy to share? Carlton said that it's not a spoiler. What was the scene in the self tape that he asked you to do? What was going on?
So the actual self tape it wasn't a scene from Wings. So it was more you had to just put something forward that you felt would suit the character or would be appropriate. So I did it was a monologue based on a girl whose mum had left her as a child, and she was now confronting her mum. So I felt that hopefully portrayed a fairly similar sort of emotional state in the sense of really emotional, high stakes, but trying to hold it together because you don't want to look too vulnerable.
Yeah.
So that was the scene that I did, and as I say, I was hoping that was in a roundabout way sort of relatable to Rita's character.
Yeah, amazing. So is there anything that you can think of or put in specifically in your self tape that you think might have made you stand out? Carlton talked a lot about making sure that you're connected to the whole character, not just like whatever you're doing in the self tape. Is there anything like that that you always put in your self tapes to stand out?
I mean, I don't want to for 1 second sound like I'm some sort of expert, but I suppose what I try and do in self tapes, there's some basics that I do that I know that all the actors, we all try and get them right as well. So I try and not have, much like I've not done today, I try and not have a busy background, so that whoever's watching your tape can really focus on you. I do tend to go in quite close. I feel, and I know that Carlton likes this as well, I feel like eyes are a massive thing. And so I feel that if you close up, they can really focus on your eyes and your emotion behind the eyes. So I tend to do that. I also, I don't know why I do this, but I try and think the mindset of how would they dress and do the hair. I'm not one for props. Some people are, and they do it amazingly well. And I've seen some self-tapes where they do props, and I'm like, fair play. I don't personally do props, but like I say, I try and think, right, how would the character dress? So for Rita, I wasn't going to go in like a police uniform or anything, but I dressed quite plain, fairly sort of a bit downtrodden because she's going to be, as I say, tired and overworked and stuff like that. And I just shoved my hair back in a bit of a scruffy ponytail, thinking, if she's been working all night, the last thing she's going to want to do is get up and do her hair or whatever. So it's little things like that that I try and get into the mindset of the character to visually look like them before you even open your mouth.
Yeah, definitely. That's a lot of what Carlton was talking about in his like advice and stuff about self-tapes. He talked a lot about making sure that you are the character and you taking the time to kind of embody that and not just film self-tape on a bit of a checklist like, right, done, I've sent that off, I've sent that off, I've sent that off. So is there, you mentioned eyes as well, is there anything specifically that you looked at for Rita in terms of eyes? Like, did she like gaze or anything like eye level, anything like that?
I think I tried to again go down the not too emotional route, but show that emotion in your eyes. So I tried to, without forcing it, get that that like almost glassy eye look when you're not crying. And I felt like for some parts of the scene that was important to have a bit of a almost the emotion coming through, but kind of holding it back as well. So I tried to do that. I felt like she would be able to hold her mum's sort of gaze and stare for some parts of the tape, but then other bits it was going to be too much. So there was a section in the monologue where I was reminiscing about when I was a child, and I kind of looked away for that because I felt like it might have been too painful to look directly at the mum. But I don't know, it's really hard to explain. I try and just do it sort of, and this is a really cheesy phrase, so I'm sorry, Molly. I try and do it organically. So as you kind of feel in the scene, how you would hold someone's gaze, or you wouldn't, or you'd look away, or you'd look down, or whatever it might be. I just try and do it as naturally as I can. I mean, I know it's difficult. I try not to overthink stuff. I know we all do.
Would that be your advice then to anybody who's kind of watching the podcast for maybe tips about if they're going to audition for baby dog films or are, hoping to get into a little bit more screen acting? Would your advice be to just do it as you would, like as you think the character would, instead of being like, right, I'm going to look down here and I'm going to look away here and I'm going to do this?
Definitely. I think for me personally, I think it's really important to, particularly in screen, because I know you do theatre as well, don't you? And but I think particularly for screen, the eyes are so important, and it's so important not to overplay stuff. I'd love to be able to do the whole jazz hands musical theatre, but for me, it's more about being sort of pared back, really natural, trying to be as true to life as you possibly can. And if you think about it, if you're having a normal conversation on the street, you're not then thinking, oh, should I look down at this section and up at this section? It just kind of happens. So I try and sort of put that into screen acting as much as I can so that it just comes across as natural. The last thing you want is for someone to watch you on screen and think, oh, they're acting.
Yeah, that's so true. I am completely the opposite. Like, say, I do theatre, so all the time Carlton's like, all right, Molly, just chill out. Just enough.
But that's a skill in itself, to be able to project out and be as big and as vivacious as the audience needs. So I admire that side of it, because I couldn't do it.
It's a lot all the time.
Fun though.
So you mentioned that you do have quite a close-up angle in your self-tapes, and Carlton mentioned a lot about hands, and I can see that you talk a lot with your hands. How do you kind of navigate that? Because when I did like a small screen acting monologue in uni, and they were like, this small hand thing at the bottom of the screen is not the one. So if you have a close-up angle, how do you get around using your hands?
For my self-tape for Wings, I don't think I had my hands in the shot. If I do have a fairly sort of emotional intensive scene, I probably would be using my hands. I'm doing it now. I would be using my hands, but they would be out of shot. But it's more so things like if my character's really anxious or whatever, I would be doing this or whatever. But whether that's on shot on screen or not, I don't know. But it's more to sort of keep in character and work stuff out in terms of what they would naturally be doing.
Yeah.
On screen, so that a couple of scenes that we've shot for Wings, there's a scene where my character's quite upset and quite downbeat, and I am very much hands and intense and whatever. But for my self-tapes, it just depends on how much I feel I should be going closer up or not as to whether I do include my hands in that shot.
Yeah, that's so true, because sometimes, like you say, if it is like this big emotional, monologue, like you said you did for Wings, all this can be a bit too much, can't it? But I suppose it's nice though that you know exactly what to do, because like it's nice to know that you have your character and you know exactly what they're going to do. So when you go on set, there's no nervousness of thinking, what am I going to do with my hands? What do I do with my hands?
Yeah, I think that goes back to, hopefully anyway, applying for roles that you feel you would suit and be comfortable for. Because if you feel that you can do the role justice and you think, you know what, hopefully I could do a good job with that role, then you're going to feel more natural on set anyway, because you feel like you're right for the part and you can hopefully do a good job. If you feel uncomfortable on set in the role that you've got, then I mean, some people might be able to ace it and just pretend that they're fine, but I wouldn't.
Do you have any tips or advice, or just anything you do, any kind of like routines that you do to make the character that you made and got comfortable with for the self-tape, and then transfer that onto set and in your actual scenes? Is there anything that you do in that kind of gap to keep the character going, if that makes sense?
I suppose basic stuff, but I reread the script the night before shooting the whole thing, just so that I can, because obviously as you'll know, we shoot out of sequence quite a lot. And I think it's important to know, if you're shooting scene 27, where your character is in that arc of their storyline, their own storyline, and then in the bigger picture of the film. So I do try and sort of map out in my head a few days before and then the night before, right, where is my character emotionally, physically within that particular role, in that scene. So I kind of do that. I also, just try and get into character as much as I can physically. So obviously that includes like the costume and stuff, but in terms of so I remember I was doing a scene for a film. I was shooting a feature film last year, and my character was really, really, really upset. And we were going into a scene where I'd just lost my child, and it was a really harrowing scene. And I was on the way there in the car, and I was singing Venga Boys, and I was like really happy in the car. And we got to about 20 minutes out from where we were going to be shooting over the other side of Leeds, and I was thinking, oh my God, I really need to sort of like get into my mindset of my character. So I put some really sad music on for the last 20 minutes of my journey, just so that I could like calm myself down and just get into a bit more of a natural state to then transition into the character. Because I didn't think, going in playing Venga Boys too loud would have.
Oh God, what sad songs did you put on? Can you remember?
I was playing Keen, who I love, but they are quite melancholy artists. So and there's one song in particular, I can never remember what it's called, but it almost sounds like a funeral song. So I was playing that quite a lot because I thought it's really morbid, isn't it? But I thought it might help get me, down a few levels. So it's that kind of prep that I try and do to get into as much of the mindset as I can.
Amazing. So now that you have the character, which is amazing, she's, you've done a couple of days on set of Wings, how are you getting on with it? How are you enjoying being Rita Murphy?
I really, really like the character. I think she's very complex in the sense of she's got a massive stress and a work life that's one thing, and then she's like everybody in life, I suppose. She's trying to then balance the personal side of her life, so her family, her friends. She's trying to then navigate the two, get that balance, but often not getting the balance right, and working and letting work overcome her in terms of how she's feeling. I really, really like playing the character, and I know we're fairly early on in the filming, but I'm hoping that we can sort of really get all of the characters in Wings to have that really interesting arc of sort of different stages of how they're feeling and how they interact with each other. But I think the story and all the different little stories within Wings all really, really come together really well. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how it all turns out.
Apparently, the first, I've just heard this on the grapevine of Baby Dog Films behind the scenes team, but apparently the first couple of like rushes that we've seen from the film we've done looks amazing. Apparently it
Oh,
looks
really?
good.
Oh,
Um,
brilliant.
so how was being on set? What was it like being, like you say, like what was it like being Rita Murphy in all of these little scenes? Can you give us any kind of little tidbits about what happened on set, maybe?
Yeah, it was good. Obviously, given I hate to say the dreaded COVID word, but given COVID, we had to be very sort of secure and try and look after people. And your mum Wendy did a brilliant job of making sure everyone's temperatures were checked and all sorts, and disposable cutlery and things like that. So it felt very safe on set, which was really, really reassuring for everybody. It felt very organised. Carlton knows exactly what he wants, how he wants things doing, as you'll be aware.
Amazing.
Which actually
No.
was really, yeah, and it was actually really reassuring, because there was no then sort of faffing around or thinking, oh, should we do it this way? It was, he knows how he wants it doing, and he's got a vision, and that was brilliant. Because then everybody knows where they need to get to, within a scene. So it was a really nice day in Liverpool. And then just hoping for more good days really like that.
Hopefully very, very soon we will be
Yeah,
back and, you know, back to life. Um,
yeah, that'd be nice.
I can't wait. Um, so, final question just before I let you go. Is there anything that you can tell the people who might watch this, something about your character that's a little bit exciting, a little bit of a kind of review without spoilers, but a little bit of a something exciting about your character that you can share with us?
Oh, okay. So from the off, you know that she is very headstrong. As I say, she has got this emotional, softer side to her. Without giving too much away, she does have a moment in the film. Well, a lot of moments that are pretty full on for her, but she does have a moment in the film where something is said or revealed to her that's a big, big change in her life, and it's huge news for her. And that moment, I feel for the character, is massive.
Yeah.
But I don't want to give too much away because I'm rubbish. I'll then just waffle on, and then I'll be like, and this is what happens. The end. But that for me, and for Rita's character, is a really interesting moment, and it's quite a turning point for the character. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's a great project. There's some brilliant actors. Well, all of them are brilliant. I've not met all of them from the cast yet. And I'm hoping, like you say, we can get back to doing it soon-ish.
Very, very exciting.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for that exciting little reveal. I actually didn't know that. I haven't read all of the script. Not all of it has been available to me. So sometimes, every now and again on these podcasts, I'm like, ooh, exciting. So thank you so much for joining me. Have a
Thanks.
wonderful, wonderful rest of your week. And hopefully we'll see each other soon on set.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
All right. See you later. Thanks, Maggie.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.